Welcome back to Opinion Loading. I don't know if you recognize that there's a bit of a difference. We are no longer on Zoom. So Amanda is here with me today, and we are going to discuss who brings what to the table. So Amanda, you can take it away.
Well, actually, seeing that this was a pressing issue for you, I think you should explain yourself and why does
Go ahead. Why does what?
Why does the statement? Okay, so I have a quote here. If you're not bringing anything to the table, give up your seat. So what about the table irks or picks at you?
It irks me because since when did the table become a subject of conversation on first dates or anything like that? Like, why do we have to discuss what you're bringing to the table? Why can't you get to know somebody before asking them that question? And what purpose does the question serve?
Okay, so
that's my issue with it.
So for me, I think when someone says, okay, well, what do you bring to the table? I believe it has to do with your expectations, like for the relationship. So if you're on a date or however, and somebody says, well, what could you bring to the table, or what do you bring to the table? To me, it says, it speaks about your expectations or whatnot. But particularly, I think the question should really be, what do you want me bring to the table? Instead of asking, what do you bring to the table?
So how about just asking, what are your expectations of me in a relationship? Better yet, because to me, that question is a precursor for dishonesty and an inflated image of yourself.
Dishonesty, how?
Dishonesty, because I could lie and tell you all kinds of things. I could tell you I have my PhD, I have 3 cars, I'm really good in bed. I could tell you a whole lot of things, and you have no way of telling if what I am saying to you is true. Unless I work with the documentation to show you.
Not initially, but eventually as they go along into the relationship.
So then why can't you wait till we go along into the relationship to find out these things? Why do you need to know from the first date what I could bring to the table?
Right.
What about what you bring into the table?
And exactly.
It is a stupid question. It's dumb.
And that is what I'm saying. The question should really be, what do you want me to bring to the table? Not in terms of like, I'm not asking you what you bring to the table, you know. I'm asking you what you want from me. Because it's supposed to be a question of standards or expectations. Because okay, so originally, because when we thought about this topic, right? I obviously went on Google. Right?
Yes, that's fine.
And basically the whole thing with the table, it has to do with when you negotiate and or whatnot. Basically, that's what it is. So you're basically setting a precedence for what you expect out of the relationship when you.
But on the first date, though.
So when I believe
you can't establish any of those things on a first date. I don't even know if I want to like you more to determine that we bringing anything to a table.
No, it's like, okay, so if you're going for a job interview, right?
Right. So worst scenario that, because I am when you ask that question, I feel like I am on an interview and I am being so I've been shortlisted and now it's time to perform, right? So I have to say, well, I have my master's and I have a car and I have a house and I have this and that, so that you now would feel comfortable or confident enough to say, all right, proceed to the second date. That is
right, but
the word that I want to use, I cannot use it on YouTube.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, we keep seeing it as what do you bring to the table, but what I am saying, I believe it's supposed to be what do you want from me? What do you expect?
Right, so what do you expect? That's a totally different question from what do you bring to the table.
That's what?
That's a totally different question from what do you bring to the table.
Right, but the thing is that this is the question, but what it really is asking is what I am saying.
No, the question is saying, let's negotiate. What do you have that will benefit me? That's how I see that question. What do
Okay.
you have that you could bring that could be of benefit to me?
Okay.
And I've never heard a woman sit down on a date and say, okay, so what do you bring to the table? That's a question that mostly men ask of women. And I just don't understand, like, what happened to the long ago standards of you go on a first date, you ask certain questions, you get to know somebody authentically, and then realize, well, they bring this to the table and they bring that to the table. Discover those things about the person as opposed to from jump say, okay, so what you have that I could benefit from? Because that's what the question is asking.
But in a relationship, though, is it really about who can benefit who? Isn't it supposed to be like a equal thing?
Yes, it should be equality in a relationship, and that should be something that also should be discussed. But when you come from jump with that question, it does not allude to equality. I don't feel that the question
I can agree with that. I
to
can agree.
equality. It alludes to, all right, so let me see what I could get from her, and I am not going to say what I am bringing to the table.
Okay.
So that's my hiccup with the question, and I feel like anybody could BS their way out of answering that question, and then you would be surprised in the end when you say I bring good credits, and then when you get married, you find out that the person have level loans, level debts.
But even before it does get to marriage, though, or obviously the things that you say that you bring to the table would obviously have to. It would come up before you get married.
Not
though.
all the things though.
But it should. So then.
It should, but not all the things. If I presented a front to you on the first occasion, you ask me, Caroline, what can you bring to the table? And I say to you, well, I'm educated. I have my PhD, right? I have 2 vehicles. I have a house in Trinidad and one in the United States of America. I have lots of money in my bank account. What do you have? What proof can you get that I have all those things that I'm citing that I do?
But because if the relationship is a genuine one, eventually I would get to find out those things though.
How? Because
the relationship will
I've already said
though.
I've already said that I have these things. So I could continue in the lie, and then we get to the point of marriage, and then what?
So are you telling me that before you get married, you're not going to a discussion about finances must come up?
A discussion about finances would come up, yes.
And you obviously have to back up what you're saying.
No, you don't have to back up anything.
So you're going to marry somebody and not even
a
sure
lot of
what
people
they
do
say
that.
is true?
A lot of people get married and have no idea of what their spouse's bank account looks like.
And to me, that makes no sense.
Well, right. So there is a certain naivety when somebody says that I bring this to the table, that you have to trust that what they say is accurate, because you cannot always what's the word I'm looking for? Verify is the word, thanks, that what they are saying is accurate. You can't. There's certain things that you simply can't. Let's say somebody says that I bring in good sex to the table, right? And the person that they're saying this to is a virgin, right? And that person wants to remain a virgin until marriage. How would she verify that that's the case?
First of all, I don't even think that is something that. What that has to do
on the table?
good sex.
Yes, it's a
You have to bring
it's,
something else besides good sex.
I'm not saying that that's the only thing the person says. I'm saying that that's one of the items on the list of things that the person is bringing to the table, right?
Right.
So they said that they have good sex to bring to the table. And when you get married, because the person, this is the scenario I'm creating, right, Amanda?
I understand the scenario you're creating,
Right.
Let me just stop you one time, because first of all, if I ask you what you, okay, because we're saying if it is the context of bringing something to the table is supposed to be about how you could benefit me, how I could benefit you, right?
Right.
Right.
So sex is not a benefit.
If you could list all whatever you bring in, right? And one of them is good sex, then that is questionable, because then it sounds as though you're fighting down to put something on the table. If you understand what I'm saying, okay, so that's like somebody saying, "I bring loyalty to the table." Like, what is that?
But people do answer that question with those responses, though, Amanda.
But in a relationship, you're supposed to be loyal, though. So saying I bring loyalty to the table is actually saying you don't have anything to bring to the table if you're putting loyalty as something on the table.
No, so loyalty is a part of is a character trait, right?
Which you're supposed to bring in a relationship. That is not that.
But it is a character trait, so that is why you will say that I am a loyal person. And that is why, Amanda, this conversation in and of itself is proof that question is total BS. Because you can say anything that you are bringing to the table.
Right.
And then disappointment happens when you don't meet up these expectations that you say that you are able to
you can't. Okay, so if you're saying if it's a beneficial thing bringing something to the table, then it's not an expectation, because I cannot tell you what is your expectation. I am telling you what you can expect from me.
So you telling me what I can expect from you would leave me with the expectation that you will fulfill what you said that you can bring to the table.
Right. And remember, the table is for negotiating. So when you tell me you bring in XYZ to the table, then we have a discussion onto how is your XYZ benefiting me. And that's how the conversation will continue. It's not to say that after you say this is what I bring to the table, I just have to accept it. No, because if this is what on the table and I don't want what on the table, or I don't want X on the table, I only want Y and Z, well, that's how the discourse will continue.
Right, so okay. So we are not talking about the continuum of the question. We're talking about, alright, so you said you're bringing X, Y, Z to the table. We agree that you bring in X to the table, I am bringing Y to the table, right? And you said you're bringing X, but X doesn't meet up to my expectations of what you said X would be. That's room for disappointment, right? Because we negotiated, we laid it on the table, and we negotiated. We said, all right, you bring in X, I bring in Y. You don't live up to the standard of X, then that leaves me disappointed. That better I didn't ask you about X in the first place, because now I'm disappointed because it did not meet my expectations for X. So that's why I said it leaves room for dishonesty and an inflated self-image. That question.
Okay, so what we're saying then?
I don't understand what you mean what's saying. I just said it.
Right.
There's nothing more to it.
So what I mean then?
Don't bother to ask the question. Find out about the person in an authentic way. Not by asking what do you bring to the table. Because you could learn what a person brings to the table without asking them that question. That's just my opinion.
So basically, you're just asking
questions.
The same question, but in a different
No,
way.
you're not asking the same question. Okay, so where did you go to school? What's your highest level of education? All of that is discovering what the person brings to the table. Where do you work? Right?
Okay.
All of those questions are similarly what you would say when you're answering what do you bring to the table. And a person would be less intimidated to answer that question, those questions honestly, than what do you bring to the table. So you feel that you have to proffer a good image of yourself. When if you're having a normal conversation, well, Amanda, where you went to school and what you do for a living and those things, you get authentic responses from that.
Which is basically the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
You're just asking the same question.
It's
not.
not.
Answer basically going to be the same
It
thing.
wouldn't,
just
not
different reason.
necessarily.
Okay, so if it is to say I bring I have a master's. Okay, so if I ask you what you bring to the table and you say, well, I have a master's degree or whatever, then I can ask, well, what school you went to? The same questions that you just the same questions.
No,
that you
when
just
you ask
suggested.
that question, Amanda, it's a list of things that you have to indicate about yourself without the person asking those questions of me. And I'm just saying that at that point in time, I could lie, I could be dishonest, because I feel by that question you're rating yourself. Then you're giving it's like an interview, and we all know people just go to interviews and lie to get the job, make up things along the way. People just even say when you're doing a cover letter or your resume, if you have all the skills that they're asking for, it's just to figure out how to phrase it in the resume. Right? So that's how I see it, and I just don't see it as beneficial to any relationship to ask that question, especially on the first date. You can get that information without having to say, what do you bring to the table?
So you're saying especially on the first date?
General. Just don't ask that question.
Right. So
it's not. I don't view a relationship as a business, and I feel like that question is a business question. If you're getting to know somebody genuinely, then you would discover things genuinely about the person without the person having to answer, well, I possess these items.
okay. I understand.
Sorry?
So your view is that it shouldn't be a question.
Throw away that question. Just throw it away. Don't ask it. At no point in the relationship, don't ask that question.
Okay, so for me, I guess it has to do with in context, in how it is being said. For me, it really doesn't matter. I've never been asked that question. I've never asked that question. I did ask what I said, like, what are your expectations? What do you expect of me to bring to the table?
To bring to the table, what do you expect of me to bring to the relationship? Because
This, oh gosh,
it's not a table.
And
I will say this, right?
every
What if
speaking.
the table is a glass table with half of a leg, one of the legs missing, and I have real heavy thing? It will break. You cannot.
What?
You cannot.
It is a figurative statement. It is not literally a table.
Stop using the table. Stop using the table. You're not negotiating in a relationship.
So what's the difference between saying what do you bring to the relationship to what do you bring
No,
to
I'm
the
not
table?
saying bring to the relationship. What are your expectations of me when it comes to relationship?
And that's the very first thing I said. That
right,
question,
and I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with what do you bring to the table. Those are two
and that's
different
what I'm trying to say. When somebody say what do you bring to the table, right? In essence, it is really asking or opening up the conversation for expectations.
I don't
What
see
are
it
your
that way. I really
expectations?
don't see it that way. I don't see it as
Because
an
if-
expectations question. I see it as a benefit question. What do you have that can benefit me? I really not seeing it as an expectations question at all. Because
because
then you could just really ask, what are your expectations?
you can literally ask anything.
Why do you have to ask, what do you bring to the table?
Because that's just the statement these days though.
They need to stop that you hear me, internet, stop that foolishness on this bringing to the table in relationships. Leave that for business situations where you have negotiations and you're fighting for contracts and that kind of thing. A relationship is not that, in my opinion. That's it.
So I guess we could just agree to disagree.
Sure, not a problem. Not a problem at all.
I don't know. What do you all think about the statement bringing something to the table? Like, we do understand that the statement, it, as Caroline was saying, it is something to do with how can you benefit me when we're talking about what do you bring to the table. So that's Caroline's view on it, and my view is that it really is a question to open up the conversation for expectations. So we have two different views here. We just want to hear from you all. What is your view on it? What is your take on it? You know, comment down below. We have the live chat open, message, and let's continue this conversation online. What does it really mean when we say, what do you bring to the table? So this is opinion loading, and continue sharing your opinions. Bye.
Bye.